somehow Kubrick, he's able to like take stuff that's very almost cliched, and yet it comes off as like, well, no, that is something that happens a lot, and he just captured it.
Especially when you compare it to her manner and behavior back as a penniless peasant in Ireland. I mean, what is she? She's ruthless, I guess, or just honest. I don't know. It was interesting.
Machiavellian?
There you go. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Adam.
Well, folks, we're back to our literary / film dramatic critiques, and I'm so excited. Especially when Bob told me what he was going to pick for me. He said it was a Stanley Kubrick film. I'm like, that's awesome. He's great. I've seen every single one of them. And then you said the name of this particular film, which is
Barry Lyndon.
And I said, huh? I ain't never heard of that movie. So this is one of Kubrick's that fell through the cracks for me, anyway. Why did you pick it, and what would you like to say as we lead off?
Sure. So yeah, on this one, as always, folks, our standard disclaimer: at any point, you can have an exit ramp and stop listening to this episode and go watch the thing.
Yeah.
The clips we picked, I deliberately tried not to spoil the whole thing. So hopefully this will be the right hybrid. But yeah, it's like you, Adam. I mean, I'm a big Kubrick fan. My favorite movie, it alternates in my mood, but it's often Dr. Strangelove if I got to pick one. And also with Kubrick too, it's, he's just every genre. Like, oh, can he do sci-fi? Well, there's 2001. That's not too shabby. Can he do a war movie? But you can't do a Full Metal Jacket. Okay, that's arguably a pretty good film. Mm-hmm. Dark comedies, like I said, Dr. Strangelove. Okay. What about an erotic thriller, huh? Eyes Wide Shut, Okay, so he can't do horror. I mean, that's a totally different... The Shining. Yeah, some people say that's a pretty decent horror film. So this guy's all over the place. And then, like you say, the Barry Lyndon, I don't even know how it came on my radar, but it's like, I didn't even heard of the thing. I was like, what the heck is this?
Yeah,
and so I went, and I watched it. That's about a year ago. And as soon as it was done, I just sat there and I knew I have to wait at least 6 months and watch this again and just digest this thing. So it's one of those films, folks, where it's, it didn't, well, maybe I'll stop at this point and get your initial, just big picture, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll dive in the clips. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll give you a small picture.
Okay.
I had mixed feelings about this film, for sure. The first thing that jumps out at you immediately, though, is just how incredibly beautiful it was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
The locations are amazing. And then I read further that he got huge accolades for technical achievements during this film with things like the Steadicam and some amazing physics he had to contend with to light those interior scenes with, there are no electric lights during this time. It's nothing but candles and whatnot. And it really shows this is a beautiful film. There's nothing Hollywoody about it. It looks like you're in the European countryside and in manor houses and gambling salons and whatnot. It's really pretty. I have super mixed feelings about the story and the lead character, and we'll get into that as we go along. But it's definitely impressive looking, this film.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So right. I'm glad your ambivalence was mine too. So when I said I have to watch this again. In contrast, did you ever see the movie In the Company of Men?
Mm-hmm.
So that one I watched, and I was in college, I remember, and I was at my buddy's place, and I think this was back in the day when you actually had to go to Blockbuster and get cassettes. Uh-huh. So I watched it, and at the end of that, I was just like, and I rewound it, and I waited. My friend just was getting home. I go, "You gotta watch this. Come here!" And I just watched it back to back. I just couldn't believe it. And it was amazing that how much that. Whereas with the Barry Lyndon one, it wasn't that I was like, oh, wow, that was an amazing experience. I want to go do it again. It was just more like, I don't know what I think about this movie. I need to just let it sit. So anyway, I share
Yeah,
your
I'm
your
glad
thoughts.
you mentioned that. I love that movie, but I was shaken by it. Um, I think I'm thinking of the same thing you are. A bunch of men in an office place
Right,
doing,
and they're dating a deaf girl.
yeah,
Yeah,
and oh my God, where
not
that went was so amazing.
okay. So that's
Yeah,
but maybe we'll cover that in a different one. But
maybe we will.
anyways, so that was a separate. So with this, so my big picture is again, and I was thinking this is the first and then the second time through watching it, is that it starts with a guy that's very I don't know if noble is the right word,
Do you
but
want to?
yeah,
Sorry to cut you off. Do you want me to? I mean, I looked up some of the details of
yeah.
this
Go ahead.
film.
Yeah, why don't you do
Okay.
that?
So this is Stanley Kubrick, 1975, and he wanted to do a film about Napoleon as he was gearing up to make this. So he had this period in time all in his brain, and then some other guy made a movie called Napoleon that didn't do very good, so nobody wanted to fund it. So he did this instead, based on an 1844 novel called The Luck of Barry Lyndon by a guy named William Makepeace Thackeray, who also wrote Vanity Fair. It's the only reason I wrote his name down, so he's got some chops. And then Kubrick wrote, produced, and directed. So it was his hand on everything. If you love it or hate it, it's no one else to blame but him. And the other interesting thing that I thought I'd mention before we take off is a lot of it was filmed in Ireland, and they had huge trouble during the production with threats of violence from the IRA because that was going on back then. And I just thought that was really interesting. Like they had to flee the country from threats of assassination and stuff.
Wow,
So,
I didn't know that.
and now you do.
Like I did not know that. Okay. So yes, so that as he says, I guess the premise is there's this Redmond Barry, and he's a young lad from Ireland, and the adventures that await him as he goes in search of fame and fortune and whatnot. But what's to me, and we'll get into it as you say, but during the course of the film, as it progresses, he makes a lot of poor life decisions.
Yes, he does.
But the thing is, this is my take of it. I feel like Kubrick was trying to show us he didn't start out as a monster. Like like he actually was almost the opposite.
Right.
He was almost painfully naive and
Right.
had these romantic notions. And I don't just mean in terms of men and women, but I mean just broadly speaking, was like a hopeless romantic, and then people just really smacked him around and deceived him, and really he just got screwed over several times over. And I think he just decided that's it. I'm done taking this, and then that's what happened. But even with that, it's not that he just turned into a complete villain. And maybe we'll not to spoil, but go along with the chronology. But there's some there's a tremendous act of mercy he does near the end of the film when he didn't need to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of no, he's still got that young boy in him somehow. And so anyway, that was I think it's a very tragic tale.
Yeah, definitely that. Before we go further with the analysis, maybe we want to start playing some clips.
Yeah, just give the folks a sense of how the feel of it. And again, so folks here, partly, I was going through and trying to grab some clips. The function here is just to give you a sense of the kind of movie it is, and just, do you want to go watch this thing? Because it's an interesting, the narrative. I think one of the clips I do have the narrator, so you can get it. It's just the feel of this thing. It is Kubrick, when he decides he wants to do something, he really swings for the fences.
That's for sure. I guess I will say one more thing.
Now, let's take a break for a totally organic conversation about a great company.
Hey, Bob. Remember the merch tables I saw the last time I tabled for the Libertarian Party? Everything went sideways for those guys.
Hard to forget, especially since you've told me 3 times already. What could those poor schlubs do to make things better?
I've been hearing great things about the Swan Brothers. They offer premium gear, embroidered polos, durable tees, and they'll set up a professional online store at no cost. They handle design, printing, and shipping end to end. Lots of options, too. Hats, mugs, bags, even branded socks. And if you run out of sizes on site, they provide a QR code so people can order and have items shipped directly.
That sounds amazing. Who else would that help?
Pretty much anyone. Startups doing promo, nonprofits fundraising, sports leagues outfitting teams, churches, you name it. Quick turnaround, fair pricing, and volume discounts. Take a look at theswanbrothers.com/cross.
Okay, organic conversation over. Back to the show.
Kubrick is not afraid to take his time and pace a movie.
Yeah.
As we all know from 2001, famously, and
Yeah.
a bunch of others, scenes in The Shining that are just long and riveting. And he does that here. I was tempted to say that the Ryan O'Neill's character, Redmond Barry, is not exactly an anti-hero. I don't think that's quite right. You described part of it. He was an extremely naive person who took some shots and ended up doing things that I thought were pretty horrible. But it's not an anti-hero thing exactly, and I don't think it's just a slice of life. Oh my goodness, look at the things that can happen to a person. I read in the book the tone was completely different. It was narrated by Redmond Barry himself,
Mm-hmm.
and he was famously a dishonest, unreliable narrator. And so he'd talk about the things that happened, but then you could see that, he's puffing himself up and he's not telling the truth. And Kubrick decided to go a different way because he didn't think that would film correctly or something. And I thought it was interesting because he tried to keep some of the humor in there, but then tried to keep it real. And I wasn't sure he threaded that needle exactly. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. And yeah, the adventures that this guy goes on are just amazing.
Yeah.
So what was our first clip? Yeah, just set it up for us.
Yeah, so the first one, I guess some of the backstory here is the film opens and Barry's playing cards with the woman he's in love with, who's his cousin, and they're in Ireland, and
it's Ireland.
Yeah,
you get it, Bob. You get it.
And it's a small island, and she's a little tease, and she has this game where she like hides a ribbon in her bosoms. Can I say that?
You may.
Bleeped. And she's like, when you find it, and he starts like he's ashen, I think is the word. And she's like, what's wrong? And he's like, I cannot find it. And she goes, well, let me help you. And 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 it's like really like she's throwing herself at the guy, and he's just no, like this wouldn't be appropriate or whatever. So, and it's not like they're 8. I mean, they're he's grown, and he's not. And so that's what I mean. Like he's just so, in terms of propriety and we can't be doing anything here. This wouldn't be proper and everything. But you say, oh, so is he just kind of shy? No, because where we're gonna, the clip here is there's some like the troops came through and there was some English officer gentleman when they're playing the music who was dancing with Nora, his cousin who he's in love with, and he's not too happy about it. And so that's the clip we're gonna play here in a second. But you can see like how serious, he is about this. And then after the clip, maybe Adam will talk about like how far things developed after.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
Redmond, what is the matter?
Nora, were you obliged to dance 5 times with Captain Quinn?
I don't care a fig for Captain Quinn. He dances prettily, to be sure, and is a pleasant rattle of a man. And he looks well in his regimentals, too. If he chose to ask me to dance, how could I refuse him?
But you refused me.
Oh, I can dance with you any day. And to dance with your own cousin looks as though you could find no other partner. Besides, Redmond, Captain Quinn is a man. And you're only a boy. You haven't a guinea in the world.
If ever I should meet him again, you will find out who is the best man of the two. I'll fight him sword or pistol, captain as he is.
Redmond, don't be so silly.
I mean it, Nora.
But Captain Quinn is already known as a valiant soldier. It is mighty well of you to fight farmers' boys, but to fight an Englishman is a very different matter.
Best have your Englishman take you home.
Redmond.
Redmond.
So just a couple things. Right there, I mean, she's telling him the value system that he comes to embrace, and like, oh, in this world, like, you got to have money, you got to be a soldier, you got to, I guess she didn't say you need to have a title, but surely that would have impressed her. So I mean, the path he ends up pursuing, it's like, gee, why did you pursue that? Well, because early on I was doing the right thing, and everyone else was telling me no. What you got to do to be, successful is all the other things. So there's that, and so there, what ends up happening, folks, is the captain ends up, they announce their engagement, and Barry like throws his glass at his face, his goblet or something, instead of toasting him, and like cuts the guy, and the guy's, what is this? And her father is outraged. By the way, Barry's father had died in a duel, and so the uncle took him in, and so it raised him. And so, they're pulling him aside. And then Barry challenges the guy to a duel. And then we think at the beginning that he shoots him dead, and they, give Barry some money and say, you got to get out of town. Like, you kill an English officer, you better get out of here. And so they send him off. So that's kind of how Barry leaves that. So, again, showing even there, it looked like maybe he was just puffed up. But no, I mean, he really was willing to go die for this girl, even though... he was rebuffing her advances earlier in the scene before.
Yeah. Also, as we got to the end of the movie, I'm thinking about how much I didn't like this character. So I'm starting to throw some gram weights on the other side of the balance scale. Mm-hmm. And a couple things he's got going for him is he's really brave. He can fight. He can... good at sword play. He can shoot. And then I don't want to spoil it either, but the mercy he does at the end, that's completely contrary to the character he showed in the entire second half of the movie. He does have these attributes. And so I'm sympathetic to your story that he started out maybe not pure and noble, but at least moldable. And then, maybe this is just what happens when you get kicked around a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead and tell the tale before we get to the next clip.
About the first duel?
Yeah. What happens between here and there? And...
Yeah. So again, folks, if we've intrigued you, leave now, because there's going to be spoilers. We can't talk about this and not tell you what happened.
Yes.
So anyway. The more you listen, if you then decide to watch it, you'll say, I wish I'd cut it off earlier. But in any event, actually, that's true of a lot of our episodes, probably, people think. But so, again, prima facie, what happened, the captain and Redmond go out, and they have their seconds and everything, and they explain the rules, and they go, and boom, and they shoot, and the guy falls, and they go up, and by God, he's dead. And they say, you gotta get out of here. You kill an Englishman, soldier, captain, whatever he is. Get out of here. They give him money, and he kisses his mom goodbye and heads. I think he was heading to Dublin. Does that sound right?
He's headed to Dublin.
Yeah, go disappear in the big city.
It should be noted that his seconds and thirds, I guess there were two of them, these are his family members who are none too happy with the course of action he has taken that it's going to hurt their family. And
because it comes out in the conversation that his cousin has been giving her ribbons around to lots of guys, and she's trying to get herself married. And so when this Englishman comes in doing these exercises with the army and is dancing with her, so for them this is a great boon. Like, they're explicitly telling Barry, this is the income we would be getting, with this guy if he marries into the family. What are you doing? When Barry's telling the guy to beat it, and so that's the context. And then, well, why don't we? Do you want to play the next clip to see what, and then we'll circle back?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. This is him after that duel. He's been given a handful of money and a horse, and he's off to Dublin to find his fortune. He almost is whistling as he rides through the forest, and then this happens.
Excuse me, sir.
Good morning again, young sir. Don't even think about it. Get down off that horse.
I should say that we didn't have time to play it, but Barry is pretty wise. Like, he sees these two as he's going through the village. He just left, and they're inviting him in to drink and eat. And his spidey sense goes off. He can see they're up to no good, so he adroitly gets himself out of that situation and carries on the road. And then what is this? The same guys, they doubled back around me and cut me off, and these damnable highwaymen.
Yeah, and that we didn't fully see it, but like as that scene continued, like he gets off the horse, and then the other kid comes up and is grabbing it. And I've only seen it twice now, but I just want him to like. I think if he had really just gambled and grabbed the kid and like gotten behind him, like so that the father would have to, because that's the guy's son.
Yeah,
like he would have done it, and the guy wouldn't have been able to shoot Barry. But you know what I mean. But
especially since we learned in the next encounter, just like how good with his fist this guy is.
Yeah, right. So that anyway, because it's just there's such an outrage that he's and these guys, like you're saying, it's just extra. That these, as he had been in the previous town folks, that these two guys are sitting out there and like, oh, would you like a drink? Do you want to have a meal with us? And no, I'm just going to keep going. Okay. And then for them to like, it's just extra. So there, and they take his horse too. Yep. And he says, can you at least leave me the horse? And they say, well, no, because in our line of business, we can't have you catching up with us, can we? And so now he just, boom, now he's got nothing, and he's just, I think they left him with his boots or something because of his sob store there. Normally we would take your boots, but we'll leave you with those or something. So now he's just walking, and that was like his mom's life savings that he had in his bag, in his little pouch. So that's what happens there. So again, he's not having a good month. And okay, so should we play the next one and then because I think it's like right after the next one where he learns about the first thing, so we'll do it in chronological order. Does that make sense?
The next one is
the war battle, right?
Yeah, the brilliant tactics of the of the English army. Yeah.
So what ends up happening? What do you do now? He's got no money. What's he gonna do? He ends up joining the army because he's in the next town, and there's some recruiters there. Uncle Sam wants you, kind of thing. And hey, what is it? Is it the 7 Years' War? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it is.
And so anyway, and by the way, throughout this too, you'll hear, I think the narrator's in this clip, so you'll hear the narrators frequently comes in and kind of gives the exposition. So anyway, we'll watch the brilliant tactics on display here, and to see, oh yes, maybe I would want to join and fight for the king.
I mean, they did give him a uniform and a little bit of money. What's the negative side of joining up and doing what we're about to see? So here we go.
Barry's first taste of battle was only a skirmish against a small rearguard of Frenchmen who occupied an orchard beside a road down which a few hours later the English main force would wish to pass. Though this encounter is not recorded in any history books, it was memorable enough for those who took part.
At some point, do we get to fire back, boss?
Yeah. So so the British won that battle. Like it was like just because they had so many men and they just got close and they start chasing them and whatever.
Yes,
But,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that was a part of the movie. I was like, whoa, this is not screwing around. So on the one hand, that's terrifying. I tried Googling around like to say, was that historically accurate? And I found people on the internet saying it was, like in other words, like would the British ever do something like that? So on the one hand, I want to be cheeky and say, if that seems crazy to you, like, isn't that the landing at Normandy? Like how they show it. But in fairness, there it's like you're getting out of the boat, you know what I mean? And the Germans have like machine gun nests. Like you can't set up your own machine gun nest when you get off the boat. Whereas here, you're just like, what, do their rifles fire more than ours do? Like, how come we're not stopping and shooting at them first? Like, that's, so I don't know. But on the flip side, that would be absolutely terrifying, right? Like if you're a smaller force and these guys just keep marching at you and like, what the heck, are these guys nuts? And so maybe that could have been deliberate. It's like, yeah, we can afford to lose a few guys just to let the other side know, like, we mean business and get the heck out of here. So.
Yeah, and not that much later, they were doing the same tactics right into machine gun nests and just losing truckloads of people every day. World War I and all that. So this part of the story, I was impressed with Redmond Barry's. He's brave, and then he. I mean, do you want to talk? How much of the story do you want to tell?
Well, so here, just so people understand, like the betrayal and like I think why this guy got so jaded. So I think it was in this very battle that the guy from back home gets shot, right?
Yeah.
And so Barry, picks the guy up kind of like fireman style and brings him, to safety. And so this guy had been around back home, when the stuff with the English captain went down, and this, it comes out, and and Barry's asking like, how is Nora and whatever, and he's like, oh, she's married, and he says the same name of the captain, and Barry's confused, like, was there a different guy with that name? And he was like, no, we just faked that, and so the whole thing was that they knew this is going to be a real pain. Like this English captain's not going to marry Nora with this kid Barry, just always mad about it. Who threw a drink in his. I want to be clear, folks. He didn't just throw his wine in his face. He threw the actual cup and it hit the guy's face and drew blood. But the guy was a coward, and so he wasn't just going to actually face Barry in a duel. So then when they went out to this guy's telling on his deathbed, telling Barry this is what happened. And said that it's I'm mixing things up. He wasn't dying when he told him. He had told him earlier.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, folks, anyway. But it come out when Barry meets up with this guy who's traveling. That's actually was funnier. Yeah, it wasn't like a deathbed confession. The guy was just telling him like, yeah, that's what happened. What do you no big whoop. They had staged all that. In other words, like Barry's, what would they be, cousins, to get him just out of the scene, talk to the captain, and they arranged this whole ruse. And the gun they handed, your second is supposed to be the one that's on your side in a duel. Yeah. They handed Barry a gun that they knew was not gonna, kill the guy. And so that's what ended up happening, just to get him out of town. So again, that's what I'm saying. You can, after he leaves and then he gets robbed and he joins the army, and that's awful. And then he sees this guy, and that guy tells him that oh yeah, not only is your, the girl you were in love with, did she marry somebody else, not you? It was the guy that they faked the death to get you out of the picture. All your trusted, close confidants.
And then after his protector from back home dies, a captain or whatever, he sneaks away from the army by stealing the horse and uniform of an officer who's supposed to be headed down the road, and just bails from the English military. So you've already seen this turn from this infused with nobility kid, who's afraid to go searching for the ribbon of Nora's. As he's on his way, he meets this German peasant who her husband is missing or something, and over a brief conversation in a saddle, he ends up going home with this lady and shacking up with her for a week or something.
Yeah.
So like, and this is, a matter of months, maybe, right? Maybe weeks.
Yeah,
And
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the sharp transition from the guy, who wouldn't, rejecting, the girl that he intended to marry, presumably back home, and here, like you say, shacking up with some foreign, and he gives her a fake name too. When
Yeah. The name of the guy who's impersonating, whose horse he stolen. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, but again, you can understand him realizing, wait, this life is crazy. Like I'm gonna just keep being marching and getting mowed down. No, I'm not doing that. But of course, you can't just go to the English after you've joined the army and say, you know what, I'm gonna give my 2 weeks notice. No, you're their property at this point. So yeah, he deserts, and the part of the function there, folks, is he needs to have some official story, and so that's why it was such a coup. When this guy's like bathing in the river and Barry overhears him talking and realizes, oh, this guy's papers or whatever in his battle. And it's not like they had photo ID back then. And so, like, hey, let me see, is that your Dublin driver's license? So he just has the guy's official papers and becomes that guy, has the uniform and takes off. And that's how he's presenting himself if he gets stopped by random soldiers and whatever.
I wanted to bring that peasant woman that he dallies with up, because the narrator breaks form a little bit at this part. And so I wasn't surprised when I went and looked later and saw that this was the original narrator voice in the book was supposed to be Barry himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was humorous because, there's a conflict between what he's saying is going on and what's really going on. So there was this line as he's riding away from this lady, quote, "A lady who sets her heart on a man in uniform must be prepared to change lovers quickly," referring to the fact that the lines of battle are just moving past this lady's little farm, and she has no idea where her husband is.
Yeah.
But hey, girl gets cold and lonely.
Yes. Okay. There was a lot of hijinks going through that, that if we want to, because the next clip jumps pretty far.
Ahead. I want to mention, do you have anything prefatory to say about how he leaves? I mean, what happens is, as he's pretending to be this English officer, he runs across a captain in the army from a country that's allied with England at this time.
It's Prussia, right?
It's Prussia, against Napoleon. And so he's riding down the road with him because he has to, and gets found out and pressed into service in the Prussian army. And then he performs an act of heroism.
And by the way, and they show like, oh, as bad as the English was, like, oh, the Prussian army was worse. Like it just starts and they're flogging some guy and making it known that this is actually one of the better things that could happen to you. So,
and I couldn't decide. He showed definite bravery to rescue the guy who'd found him out. And I couldn't decide if it was cynical or if it was just him the last tendrils of his noble heart from when he was a teenager or something. I couldn't decide. But anyway, he becomes this older guy, this captain, takes him out of the army and presses him into service doing something else. This is such a crazy story, ladies and gentlemen. Then he gets sent on a mission to be a spy because there's this guy in town from Ireland, which is why Barry gets sent to be the spy. And I don't even remember what the crazy story is, but Barry ends up confessing to being a spy, and so ends up working with this guy who is a traveling crooked gambler.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird and interesting, but I must say I was a little annoyed.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to get your take on this stuff.
In the main gambling scene, it was important to the plot that Barry's new master, what they call him, Chevalier or something like that, ends up defrauding somebody who's important to the Prussians, like a diplomat or something. Beats him out of a whole bunch of money playing some weird card game that acts like two-handed spades or bridge or something. I couldn't tell. So he's playing with this guy for hours or days maybe and loses just a boatload. And at the end of it, this goofball says, "I don't know how or why, but I believe you've been cheating me, sir." Well, the how and why is Barry is standing behind Chevalier's opponent, serving wine and water and stuff, just staring at the guy's hand. And then he's using a not very sophisticated set of verbal clues as to what suits the guy is long or short in. And I just find it hard to believe that a nobleman, even from way back then, could have the servant of the man you're playing standing right behind you, staring at your hand, going, "I have no idea how you're doing this. You really are a wizard. I think maybe you're cheating me, though."
Yeah. I don't know if you said nonverbal, but I heard you say verbal.
No, it was verbal. Yeah, it was verbal.
No, it's
because he was saying, huh?
He was doing stuff like.
No, it was verbal.
Well, some of it wasn't. He was doing things like where he'd put the towel and stuff, wasn't it?
Well, the leadoff one was, "Did you want more wine or more water?" And that meant he was long in something, spades or something.
All right.
And he had something for every one of the suits, and maybe some of them were nonverbal, but I remembered the verbal ones.
Okay. But it wasn't like he said, "Boy, did you see that girl and the diamond on her finger?" Like he didn't, it wasn't that obvious.
It wasn't quite that bad. But I'm a nitpicker. This is what I do. You know how it is. Anything you're good at or you know something about and you see it in film it's always nonsense.
Right. I was like, supply curves don't slow down. What are you doing?
See, you get it.
Jeez. Kubrick. Yeah, right. Fair enough. So again, folks, it was a nice. It reminded me of Dr. Strangelove, how like in the middle of that, like it was really like the game theory aspect, and wait, you got to get inside this part. Wait, but he's thinking this, and he's thinking this, and so that's this part of the movie. That's what really, piqued my interest was that yes, because they're out of the war's over, or they're back home at least, but Barry is still in the service of this Prussian military commander who had found him out, and they drafted him, and so yes, they send him on this mission. And then, hit right out of the gate when he first meets this guy that he's supposed to dupe. Like, "Oh, I'm here to be your servant and your, houseboy or whatever it is. But really, I'm going to be giving intelligence back to these guys." And he just tells him right out of the gate, throws himself on his mercy. Like, "Because you're from Ireland, I got it." And he just tells him his whole story, a sob story. And the guy gets up and hugs him. And he's like a double agent. So it's a cool part of the movie because like Barry is still going back and truthfully reporting stuff to, the Prussians who want to know who is this guy, the swindler. But the swindler knows he's like, they calculate and say, "How much did you tell them?" and whatever, so that they don't realize you're working with me now.
Right. Yeah, it was funny. He lasted as a spy not for one entire syllable.
Yeah.
Just immediately walked up to the guy and spilled his guts.
Well, because the kid is honest. The kid, so yeah, there was like, we don't need to, but like how they escaped and everything, like that was a cool,
it was cute.
So it was nice stuff. All right, so then they go to a different country, and they're more open about it. And they're a gambling force, and as you say, like that was just a very picturesque part of the movie where they're inside, but it's night there, so it's all candle lit. And they the noble people of the day, when they would go out to party, like they'd paint their faces and whatnot. So it's just it's very interesting. Again, it's reminiscent of Eyes Wide Shut too. Like the scenes look similar.
And if I'm critiquing this movie too hard, ladies and gentlemen, I do think it's worth seeing, even if it's just for these sets and these these castles he's filming in and around, and the forest. It's a beautiful movie. It really is.
And so here the important plot element is there's this married woman who's married to this older guy that's very wealthy but he's he's older and he's got medical issues and stuff. He's not a fine strapping young lad like Barry, and Barry's just like basically staring her down over the card table, and she walks out, he walks out, and it's adultery at first sight kind of thing. And so that right there again just showing how far he's now progressed, such that the guy confronts him. Like, Barry's walking, like it's now becoming an open secret in these, circles that, oh yeah, that guy Redmond is, is sleeping with this guy's younger wife. And the guy confronts him, and Barry doesn't like, I don't remember the exact wording, but I mean, it was pretty like, yeah, well, okay, you know.
Yeah, it was. It is one of the most amazing character arcs I've ever seen in a film, where he was when he's a young peasant and what he ends up doing in pursuit of. They're never going to get me like that again.
But I thought it was plausible. You know what I mean? Like there was no abrupt jump. It was kind of it just flowed. It was like, yeah, okay, and then this happened, and then he did this, okay, yeah.
And again, I almost wanted Kubrick to stick to the original book a little bit more. Like I know he wanted to do a time period piece in this part of the country, you know, with Napoleon, and he liked this source material, but I wish he'd made it. This was a good movie, but I think it would have been better if he'd made it a. I couldn't help looking back on the movie. I couldn't help wondering. Show me the same scenes, and then have Redmond Barry describe what's going on. You know, in his version, in his head of what a hero he's supposed to be. I bet that would have been something.
Okay, well, if they did do that, I mean, it would have been a different movie, but let me tell you why I liked just Kubrick stuff in general, and then this one in particular, is I think part of his style, at least the ones I'm thinking of, is he's very understated.
Yes,
like it reads like the Old Testament or something.
Yeah,
where it's like crazy stuff is happening, and then this guy said this, and then he did this, and you're just like, what the heck? Like, slow down, like talk about this a little bit, and no, it just moves on and
don't tell.
Do with this what you will, you know.
Right, right.
And that's like the same thing here. So it's almost to me like I don't want to be inside Barry's head. Like I want to just see what he does and just try to figure out what the heck did he just do that for, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. When we get to the end, if you'll indulge me, I want to read a few very brief reviews.
Sure.
Because it's interesting the way this thing was reviewed when it came out, and then sort of what happened over time. Yeah, but we're not there yet.
Okay. So, yeah, before we get to the next clip, there were two things that I want to just mention. So, one, did you catch, Adam? Did you think it was funny? So, the film had like an intermission in it.
Yeah.
And so it's stuck because it's what was it, like 3.5 hours?
It was long. Right? Yeah, there's a reason to have a theater intermission. So
there's a theater intermission. And then it comes back, it's this, part 2 or whatever. This might not be the exact word. It was something like, an explication of the misfortunes and disasters that were now coming or would now befall.
I think they even used the word befell.
Yeah, because it's very formal. But what was funny is, you're watching the movie and you're like, look what just already happened to this guy. And now the disasters and misfortunes are coming. And the very next scene is him getting married.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, I've been seeing your guys getting their guts blown out and stuff and whatever, but you get robbed at gunpoint, but oh no, now you get married. So anyway,
this is nothing.
I just thought that was funny. And then I don't know, were you paying attention? I don't know if you're grabbing popcorn or something, but had a bathroom break. He's getting married. So what happens, folks? The woman he's seeing, her husband ends up dying, and so now she inherits all that stuff, and so she's like, what is she, a baroness or something? And
a lady, I guess. I mean, it's Lord Lyndon.
Yes.
That dies, and so he marries her and takes the name Lyndon to become Barry Lyndon.
Right. And what was I gonna? Oops. Oh, and it's her chaplain, I guess would be the term, but she has this sort of mentor, tutor to her son that's attached to her.
Yeah.
And he marries, once the other guy dies, marries Barry to her. And were you paying attention? Like the stuff the guy was saying, it was really creepy. Like, and for the purposes of procreation and nothing else, and the God, brings these, and you must keep your lustful desires in check. And it's really like, whoa.
It was odd. Yeah. And back in the day, like, noble families would have their own priests. That was just like totally normal, which got really interesting when the Protestants were fighting the Catholics and all that. But yeah, it was just like a friend of the family that lives there and teaches the little kid, and I will also marry you too. That's a little intimate.
Okay. I guess one last thing I wanted to mention was that he, as they're riding in the carriage or something, when it's clear, I don't know if it was right after the marriage or right, but I think it was right after. And so the Lady Lyndon's son, was it Lord Bullington? Is that the guy's
that
kid's
sounds
name?
right. Yeah.
And the religious guy is asking him like, so, you should be happy your mom's getting married or something like that. And the kid is miserable, and he gives a pretty, I would have grabbed the clip, but I couldn't find it. A pretty succinct analysis of this, this scoundrel who's marrying my mother, and I can't believe like she should be ashamed of herself to fall for such a
You can't see this guy coming, this lowlife who's just swooping in. Yeah, he becomes a huge part of the last half of the movie, the hatred between his stepkid and him.
Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, like the kid, he wasn't wrong, but I think also it was showing like the contempt and scorn he had for his mother. It wasn't just like, oh, Mom, what are you doing? It was like, she should be, this is disgusting. I can't believe this, that kind of attitude. So anyway, which again, you can see comes out later, and that's like one of his flaws. Okay, so.
I mean, from his perspective, Barry did kind of murder his father, because I think he keeled over right after that exchange you were talking about. He verbally berated him into having a stroke and a heart attack or something.
Right.
So from this kid's perspective, this Irish peasant came and killed my father and bewitched my mother. What the heck is going on here?
It wasn't even just that he was an Irish peasant, a guy like a card swindler.
Yeah.
Like just a drunk or not that he's lying around drunk at this point, but just,
he's about to get there.
Partier. Yeah. So, probably we could just go into the next. I'll say one last thing, because I think the other kid was. So then Barry and his wife have, their own biological son. Then, of course, Barry showers him with the. And what's interesting is just to give a contrast, he's putting him down to sleep. And he goes, oh, Father, can you tell me another story? And so Barry's telling him this pretty over the top story of, his heroic soldiering days. And then, we jumped over and there were 8 guys and I took them all out, that kind of a story. But very bloodthirsty too, not like, oh yeah, I worked a triple shift one time and boy, was my check big. Like it was like, no, I slaughtered all these guys with my bare hands. But then the kid wants to leave the light on or something. And, his grandma's, Barry's mom has moved, from Ireland, is with them. And she's trying to, like, oh, no, you're a big boy now. And Barry's like, oh, of course you can keep it on. So just the contrast that he's all his bravado or whatever, but he's doting on this little kid. And then, again, that feeds into the dynamic later of, like, how this kid can do no wrong in his eyes and everything, as we'll see. Okay, so did you want to comment on any of that before we play this next clip?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Let me just... I think, again, maybe I'm overreading, but Kubrick is so amazing. Like, I even if I am looking into it, still, it was there implicitly, even if you didn't see it. I think partly what he's showing is how there can be situations where even people, who are tragically flawed, a weird thing that even the good parts end up contributing to the catastrophe.
Oh, that's
so, like here, it's like given all the other problems with Barry, the fact that he was such a doting father to his younger son actually made it worse.
It increases the contrast, therefore highlighting, it wouldn't hurt, it wouldn't sting as much if he was a jerk to everybody, but no, he loves this other kid.
I mean, that's true, but I mean it even more literally, like that he gives the kid the horse and everything. And also I think that fueled let's go ahead and say it, like, this kid is a little punk, and like he kind of provokes.
That's right.
The other guy too. Whereas if Barry had been more even-handed and was like, when they got into a fight, like say, okay, who started it? That it would have been fair, and probably the older stepkid wouldn't have hated Barry so much. But since Barry always reflexively took the little kid's side, even when the little kid was a little punk, I think that contributed to things. So that's what I'm getting at.
Word to the wise, stepfathers: tread carefully.
Yes.
Or something bad might befall you.
Yes. Okay, so a humongous thing in terms of, like, structurally what causes the downfall here. Because at this point you might think, yeah, he had some rough things, but at this point, okay, he's married to a woman of great wealth. He's got this darling little boy that, his apple of his eye and everything. And okay, he can leave behind his swindling. He's got it made. He's got a nice community and stuff. One thing is right out of the gate, he just starts cheating on his wife.
Immediately.
That was the thing where that was just inexcusable. Like the other stuff that he does that's questionable, like you can kind of see, he shouldn't have done it. But that one, there was no reason for that. That was just what are you doing?
The man who didn't have the stones or didn't think it was proper to go looking for the ribbon when his cousin clearly wanted him to look for that darn ribbon. Yeah, he immediately starts philandering in the brothels just egregiously.
Yeah, even to the point, folks, where like his wife is strolling with her, maid and, her son, and sees him making out with like her other maid that's like taking care of the baby or something.
Yes.
Like, just again, like not even being discreet, just like, like, come on, dude, have some, keep up appearances. Jeez. So anyway, that was the thing where of all the stuff he did, like, I was just like, what are you doing? So,
right. And the structural problem is that he's in a great spot, but it all hinges on her.
Right.
Because she is the lady and it's her titles and it's all her money. If she keels over, it all passes to this stepson who despises him, and that's no good.
And who assesses this situation expertly is Barry's mother, and so that's the clip we're going to play.
Indeed. Here we go.
Little Brian is a darling boy, and you live in great splendor. Your lady wife knows she has a treasure she couldn't have had had she taken a duke to marry her. But if one day she should tire of my wild Redmond and his old-fashioned Irish ways, or if she should die, what future would there be for my son and my grandson? You have not a penny of your own and cannot transact any business without the Countess's signature. Upon her death, the entire estate would go to young Bullingdon, who bears you little affection. You could be penniless tomorrow, and darling Brian at the mercy of his stepbrother. Shall I tell you something? There is only one way for you and your son to have real security. You must obtain a title. I shall not rest until I see you, Lord Lyndon.
So two things. Countess, it turns out.
Yes,
Is that what you said before?
Yeah. No, I said Baroness. I stand corrected.
We're both wrong. And second, for people who cannot see the screen because you're listening to the audio, that's just a beautiful shot.
Right.
And the whole movie is like that. I've never seen anything quite like it. It's an amazing looking film.
Yeah, when I was just, pacing through the, like the clips that they had up, just to grab stuff for that. Like, yeah, I was just struck by, this looks like a painting. Just looking at the.
Yeah.
So there you go. And again, just feeding into, I guess I noticed it in 2001. There was a scene when they're first going up to the moon, I think, and the astronaut goes up and he's like in the space station or something, and he has a quick call with his son who's back on Earth celebrating his birthday or something. It was just somehow Kubrick, he's able to like take stuff that's very almost cliched, and yet it comes off as like, well, no, that is something that happens a lot, and he just captured it. And so here, like to say, oh yeah, the mother-in-law and the wife, are at loggerheads, and that leads to problems. Like in somebody else's hands, that could have come off as like, oh, okay, here we go, like the formulaic. But here it's just like, okay, yeah, and I can see why. Oh, she just lit a fuse with her, suggestion, just looking out for my boy and my grandson.
Just a few little suggestions. Yeah, she was a delight, especially when you compare it to her manner and behavior back as a penniless peasant in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, she wasn't for any of this, him leaving and going on his adventure or any of this. So it's pretty. I mean, what is she? She's ruthless, I guess, or just honest. I don't know. It was interesting.
Machiavellian.
There you go.
That's a big word. It is interesting too, like back then, just how, like now, even though to us the idea of having a queen seems silly, but back then, how like you get when people talk about like new money and stuff like that, and how they're in
Right.
the other world, like because you read too. I'm reading like Hayek and stuff, and like the resentment, like this is partly where like the anti-capitalist mentality would come from. That some of this, these landed nobility, and then some industrialist because he comes up with some idea and has a factory and whatever, and now he has more money than I do, and what the heck is that? I mean, that's kind of a crazy system. Who is this guy?
I get it.
Who's his grandfather? What is this? So
How did you?
anyway.
You don't deserve to be here.
So what that ends up doing, folks, is sets off this chain of events where, Barry gets a mentor who's recommended by somebody that he trusts to say, this is the guy you talk to as to how do you acquire, because officially you can't just buy a title. Well, that wouldn't be proper. But of course, unofficially, oh yes, there's ways we can do that, and we know who to do it. And it's going to take money, and you're going to have parties and and you're going to go to these events and and so, and butter this guy. You're going to go buy some of his paintings, from his collection or whatever, and that will, make him more inclined to go along with the proposal. So they just do that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that you reminded me of that one scene where he's going to spend a hideous amount of money with an art broker. And the art broker is just treating him like such a sucker. It's just it's so beautiful. He says something smart and says, "What do you think, Lord Lyndon?" And Ryan O'Neal just stares up and he goes, "I like the blue." "Oh, very wise, Lord Lyndon." He's just, "Are you interested in that?" "Oh, I couldn't possibly part with that. That's our best painting."
What are you trying to say? James Joyce was a good writer. How about that? We know art. All right.
You poor Irish.
So, and that's the ultimate, downfall that he ends up squandering. So, because the wife goes along with technically she has to sign everything,
every check, yeah.
But he's the man of the house or whatever, and it's things are just downhill from there. And he has some heavy discipline of the stepson. And again, there's some of the occasions like the younger kid instigates it. And I guess one thing that's like pretty amazing is they're having this, I don't know, swore away, like a music recital, and Lord Bullington, again, who is the son from the previous thing, comes in with his younger brother, just making up a scene, like quite literally, like stomping, and he comes, "Mother, I think he fits my shoes quite nicely, don't you?" And everyone's just like, what is going on? Like, it's just so awkward. And because they're like doing playing the piano or something, and everyone just has to, the musicians have to stop because it's just such a scene. And he just, like, in front of the crowd is telling his mother, "I can't believe you married this scoundrel who cheats on you," and da. And she, storms out. And so this is the downfall, Redmond just jumps up and tackles the kid and just starts, the crowd has to restrain him. And I don't know if you caught him, but the little kid sticks his head out and he's looking, and he's like licking his lip. He thought it was hilarious that his dad's fighting this guy. So again, just showing how much that kid's a little, like just instigating stuff. But that's part of the downfall too, is then, from that point forward, like Barry, people just kind of, stand very standoffish, and, so he's certainly not getting a title at that point. And, people won't even like, guys, "Hey, we invited you to cards the other day and you weren't there." And he's like, yes, sorry, I was quite busy and whatever. And so like people just, they've shut him out. So that's kind of the downfall, and things just progress from there. I don't know. I think we've given enough of an analysis. I suppose that was my, but again, I don't, not to get the final spoiler, but yeah, there's something still at the end where it's very surprising, the mercy that
he makes a move
Redmond shows,
that harkens back to his innocence and nobility as a kid, and it's surprising to see at this point in the character arc, and it has dramatic ramifications.
Yep.
Can I read these critiques, these professional movie reviews? I won't say who they are or where they print, but these are like big time movie reviewers in substantial publications in 1975.
I was going to say, because I know Roger Ebert.
He's one of them, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, one of these guys said, someone from the LA Times. He called it, quote, the motion picture equivalent of one of those very large, very heavy, very expensive, very elegant, and very dull books that exist solely to be seen on coffee tables. It is ravishingly beautiful and incredibly tedious in about equal doses. A succession of salon quality still photographs, as often as not, very still indeed, unquote. So they were kind of vicious back in 75. It was decidedly mixed reviews. Here's another one from the Washington Post. Quote, it is not inaccurate to describe Barry Lyndon as a masterpiece, but it's a dead-end masterpiece, an objet d'art. I butchered that, I'm sorry, rather than a movie. It would be more
I
at
think
home.
even the Irish guy could have said that better than you did, but go ahead.
I call. It would be more
Object
at home.
of art? Sorry, go ahead.
That would have been better. It would be more at home and perhaps easier to like on the bookshelf, next to something like The Age of the Grand Tour than on the silver screen. One more from the New Yorker wrote, quote, Kubrick has taken a quick-witted story and controlled it so meticulously that he's drained the blood out of it. Adding, it's a coffee table movie. We might as well be at a 3-hour slideshow for art history majors. Scathing. But then many years later, in 2009, Roger Ebert, who liked it when it came out, but not as much as later, he increased his original rating from 3.5 stars to 4, which I think is his top in that system. Writing, quote, Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, received indifferently in 1975, has grown in stature in the years since and is now widely regarded as one of the master's best. It is certainly in every frame a Kubrick film. Technically awesome, emotionally distant, remorseless in its doubt of human goodness. And I like that. I like Ebert's upgrade to his review. And a lot of the things that I found disquieting when I was watching it made me feel dumb when I thought back to all the other Kubrick movies that I like so much, because a lot of the stuff is kind of similar in there.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe not being fair looking back from 2020, 25 or whenever it was I watched it again here, or for the first time. I can't remember what year I watched it in. Was it 26 or 25?
So you think you watched it 25, right? Or you're not even sure because it was
I
close.
can't remember if I watched it like around Christmas or after the New Year. It's meaningless. I don't even know when.
It's interesting you say that, and you're right. I can see that. And so, is it just in other ones that you like the movies more? Was it just that the other qualities offset it, or whatever? Because even I've shown Doctor Strangelove to people, and it depends on who it is. And like, you know, when I saw it with my roommate in college, the first time we saw the Blockbuster or something we got, and we both were just like, "This is amazing." And we were like telling people, "You got to watch this movie." Yeah. But then later on, when I was in grad school, I showed it to some people from Europe, and they didn't get that it was a comedy. They were just horrified at like how nutty the Americans were, and you know, like it was really deep into it. It was when the president was like, "Well, of course I like to call you. Of course I like to talk. But don't you think, if this weren't a friendly call, would you even be getting it?" It was only at that point when one guy like chuckled a bit, and I was like, "Oh my God, they didn't realize this was supposed to be funny." And anyway, so yeah, I can see how if it's not hitting, like people could be like, "What the heck is this?" Like I got to sit here and watch this. So fair enough. And
part of it, for me, it's just idiosyncratic. I don't really like Ryan O'Neal to begin with. And you could tell that he was taking pretty specific direction from Kubrick to be non-emotive in a whole bunch of these scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, I mean, clearly he's saying, I don't want the audience to really know what this guy's thinking or feeling. He's just doing his thing.
Right.
And it's like you said, you decide. So that put me off a little bit, but that's not Kubrick's fault, or I think it's more of a me thing. I just don't like that actor. A lot of people love him, but I don't.
What else was he in?
I don't remember.
because the stuff I had read, it was saying like this to get funding for this thing because it was so,
Well, they needed a name. He was a name
risky.
back then, for
Right.
sure.
That's what I was saying is that apparently, the studio or whatever said to him, you got to get a top name, like the lead's got to be somebody big, and that this guy was like the guy at the time, which is kind of fun. Like you asked me to list some of the big, box office draws or something, like his name wouldn't have been at the top of my list. But apparently, when they were casting this, like he was the guy. Like, okay, yeah, you get him on board. We'll fund this thing.
Early 70s, he was pretty big. Trying to just find his filmography. The Champ, Oliver's Story. That was after this. Paper Moon, that was the big one. With Tatum O'Neal. What's Up, Doc? Out of Africa. Stuff. He was in Stuff.
Okay.
Stuff. I don't know. I don't happen to like that guy, but that's my fault, not his. So very interesting choice. Again, you shocked me. I've never heard of this movie, and I'm like, I like this director. What's going on?
Yeah. So in retrospect, like now, I guess we can understand what happened. That this is, given that there's going to be a Kubrick film, that there's a lot going for it, but yet you haven't heard of. You can see why. But on the other hand, that's why, folks, you got to listen to Haman Nature and the Bob Murphy Show.
That's right.
Because you're gonna get little gems like this.
Little gems like this, and again, go see it just to look at it. Especially in '75, it won awards. It won Oscars for the technical production of this film, and they were inventing new things to capture these images on film without artificial light. It's pretty cool.
All right, I'm looking at my notes. I think I hit all the main things that I wanted to.
I had nothing to say about this film, so I'm amazed I got so many syllables out. This is fun. What are we going to do next time, Bob? Book, movie, to be determined later?
To be determined later.
All right,
I'm just
sir.
glad we were able to get this in before War with Iran broke out. So,
I mean, check your watch. Are you sure it hasn't already? We're recording this on January 14th, late in the evening, so who knows? By the time you hear this, things might have gotten interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for the recommendation, Bob. This was fun as always. Ladies and gentlemen, go see thebobmurphyshow.com and his YouTube channel. Go see mine, Haman Nature on YouTube, and my Substack, because I write stuff. Haman Nature at .substack.com. Say goodbye to the nice folks, Bob.
Goodbye, nice folks.
He did it. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.